this way!
On January 6th, 2021, thousands of rioters, many coming from the Save America rally, stormed the U.S. Capitol as Congress met to certify the 2020 presidential election results. 5 people died that day, including 1 police officer, and 140 law enforcement officers were injured. It was later estimated that $1.5 million in damages were done to the Capitol, according to the Department of Justice. As the dust settled, President Trump was impeached for a second time for his role in the insurrection. And the ongoing FBI investigation continues to make arrests and file charges. So far, more than 700 participants have been arrested from nearly every state. Here's how the day unfolded. That morning, thousands gathered at the Ellipse near the White House to hear the president and his allies speak. Shortly before noon, President Trump addressed the crowd.
We will never give up. We will never concede. We're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
He spoke for little over an hour. Supporters then marched toward the Capitol as the president returned to the White House, where he wouldn't be heard from again until a tweet at 2:24 p.m. Initially, only Capitol Police were stationed. Additional MPD officers would be called to assist by 1 p.m. A large crowd approached approximately 5 Capitol Police officers, standing at a fenced-off entrance near the Peace Monument. According to ABC News sources that day, many Capitol Police were armed only with mace and their sidearms. As the crowd pushed the barricades over, the police were quickly overwhelmed. In contrast to other events in D.C. during the summer of 2020, additional state and federal law enforcement was not pre-staged ahead of the riot. Within minutes, protesters began swarming other entrances at the Capitol, breaking through barricades and continuing to push further toward the building. During this time, explosive devices were reported outside of the Democrat and Republican headquarters. An hour later, the police could no longer hold their line, and rioters fought their way up a temporary staircase built for the inauguration. The Capitol was breached for the first time at 2:12 p.m. through smashed windows in the Senate wing on the west side of the building. As senators sought shelter, Officer Eugene Goodman ran to head off the rioters. On his way, he passed Mitt Romney and told him to turn around. Goodman found the rioters and directed them toward the police backup, away from fleeing senators. Outside, Officer Brian Sicknick was sprayed with bear repellent and died the next day from a stroke, according to a medical examiner. At 2:26, Vice President Pence was taken to safety, with the country's nuclear codes in the hands of a nearby aide. At the same time, President Trump commented publicly for the first time since his speech, tweeting, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution." After a 30-minute fight between police and rioters, the east side of the Capitol was breached.
They broke the glass? Everybody stay down!
By 2:45 p.m., members of the Capitol security team barricaded the entry doors to the chamber. Congress members retrieved gas masks from underneath their seats, and tear gas had been released into the rotunda. Outside the House chamber in a stairwell, protesters attempted to get into a secured hallway. One woman, Ashley Babbitt, was shot by a Capitol policeman and later died. On the other side of the Capitol, rioters broke into the Senate chamber to search for documents and pose for pictures, as captured by Luke Mogelson of The New Yorker. Around 2:50, the police line outside was pushed back into the Capitol tunnel, where a crowd crushed officers against a doorway. By now, hundreds of rioters occupied the Capitol, some roaming with Confederate flags, sitting at the Speaker Pelosi's desk, and vandalizing the building. By mid-afternoon, many political leaders and allies of President Trump called on the president to make a statement and denounce the protest.
I tried to call the president immediately, and I've tried a number of different ways to get him.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege
At 4:17 p.m., more than 2 hours after the violence began, President Trump tweeted a minute-long pre-recorded video speaking to the protesters.
You have to go home now. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you.
At the tunnel, the assault on the police intensified. Officers were repeatedly attacked with a variety of weapons, from a hockey stick to crutches and batons. At 5:02 p.m., heavily armed police arrived in the tunnel and the crowd backed down. And by 5:41, almost 5 hours after the riot started, authorities began to regain control of the Capitol. By 8 p.m., senators resumed session in the Senate chamber to confirm electoral votes.
Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol.
Congress worked through the night and at 3:39 a.m. certified Joe Biden as the 46th President of the United States. A week later, on January 13th, 10 Republicans joined House Democrats to impeach President Trump for inciting an insurrection.
On this vote, the ayes are 232, the nays are 197.
He became the first president to be impeached twice. On June 30th, 2021, the House of Representatives voted to create a committee to investigate the Capitol insurrection. The ongoing investigation has conducted more than 150 interviews and issued at least 45 subpoenas. President Trump has called the investigation a partisan sham and a waste of taxpayer dollars. Of the more than 700 rioters arrested through the Department of Justice and FBI investigation, nearly 20 have been given jail time. Robert Scott Palmer was sentenced to over 5 years for throwing a fire extinguisher at law enforcement. Scott Fairlamb filmed punching a police officer, and Jacob Chansley, the self-described QAnon shaman, both received 3.5-year prison sentences. While Fairlamb and Chansley pled guilty, each has since appealed to withdraw their pleas. After the insurrection, former President Trump was banned from major social media.
Do you miss me yet?
But he remains popular among his base. A Quinnipiac poll from October 2021 found that 78% of Republicans want to see him run again in 2024.